I'm ready to roll.
Perfect. I'm ready too. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Tyree, for coming through the podcast.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. It was a pleasure. Just, randomly meeting you at Essence in New Orleans and being able to stumble upon just talking to you, having great conversation. So I appreciate how warm and inviting that you were.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm going back next year. I got my own poetry book. I'm like, I got it out already, but I'm going to print it and do my own thing there. And then my friends are selling all them poetry books. I said I got to do this next year.
Dope.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
Yeah, so welcome to the podcast. So this is a place where we talk about all things related to Black culture, mental health, faith, and everything else in between. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Well, I'm from Philadelphia, like the hat says. It's part of the name, Philly. And I grew up in West Philly and moved to an area called Mount Airy. And Mount Airy was like the move up area for black people. We call it Uptown now, Mount Airy, West Oak Lane, and Germantown. And the black people moved up there. And we in the 80s hit, we became extra fly. We were like the flyest people in the city,
I
in
love it.
Mount Airy. Yeah, so I happen to be up there, but I'm originally from West Philadelphia, the bottom. Will Smith is from the Overbrook area, which is
Mhm.
what they call the hilltop, the top area. And then the bottom is, like right near the art museum. We right around the corner from the art museum and the zoo.
Mhm.
And it's a rougher neighborhood. So I came up down there, and my mother was the oldest of 8, and my father was the oldest of 4. And so I had uncles that they were older than me, but they weren't that much older. You know what I mean? And they wanted to go to the movies, and my mom would work and go to work. And then my uncles would say, let us watch the nephew. We want to go to the movies. And so my mother would get them like, this is back in the 70s. So she give them like $5. And that pays for all our movies, all our food, the whole everything. And
With
so we
$5?
$5, and we get
Wow.
everything done with $5, boo, back in the 70s. So we walk up Lancaster Avenue in West Philadelphia to the Capitol Center movie theater on 52nd Street and go to the movies. And they like saying kung fu movies back then. And we see like 3 kung fu movies. They call them triple features, and you watch 3 in a row. And I was right there with them. You know what I mean? And then I would memorize the scenes in the movies and the voices and all that kind of stuff with the Wu Tang and the Shaolin and the Tiger Style and the crane and all that. And I come out doing all the moves. I'm like 5, 6 years old. So by the time we get back to West Philly, my uncles got a kick out of it. So they had me, replay the movie for their friends. So now I'm doing the movie for teenagers. And I'm like 5, 6, 7 years old. So I already had a knack for memorizing stuff and doing
Mm.
voices. And so that was the storytelling at first. Then when I moved to Mount Airy as a teenager, I was older. My friends couldn't do movie marathons, what I call them. I was just bouncing from one screen to the next and watch all the movies and being there for like 6 hours. And my friends were like, man, we ain't been in the movies for 6 hours. We couldn't do it. So I had the attention span. They didn't. So they would go hang out in the mall for 3 hours while I'm still in the movie theater. Then I'd catch them later on. We go to the arcade. We talk to girls. We go to the parties, the house parties and stuff. We get in fights, the whole nine. And so that all the stories in Philadelphia, and I was one that understood how to tell them, understood what people you use as language and all that. And
Mhm.
so once I got to college and they started asking us to write about our neighborhood and our friends and our hobbies as a test to see what our writing skills were, my writing skills was way up there because I was a storyteller. And so that improved
Oh.
my English. And then I got an A in English, passing the highest level of writing. And then when I came to Howard, I transferred from Pitt. I went to Pitt first. And when I came to Howard, I just wanted to focus on the writing stuff. And that's what I did. And so, yeah,
That's amazing.
I was born a storyteller. It was just a thing of being in the right position to keep, what they
Yeah.
call it, learning it and mastering it. And then I went
Yeah.
ahead and I took up journalism at Howard, where I'm interviewing people, which took it to another level, interviewing people, writing stories, newspaper articles, magazine articles, and then that led into books. But, film is the next thing because that's what I really started with, film. And so it's been hard getting in film because, the film, I guess the finance people, they want to control everything. They don't read the content, they don't know the content,
Yeah.
but since they have the money, they want to control what you do with it. And that, that's just don't settle right with me.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
know the
yeah.
content, you're gonna tell me what to do. And then
Right.
I'm a type A personality. So I'm not like no step and fetcher, go get it. I'm a hustler, I'm an entrepreneur. I typically run my own show. And so it's been difficult trying to get the
Yeah.
capital. But that's what I'm working on now in the film game.
I
But
love that.
that's how I became a storyteller. I was
I
already a
love it.
storyteller. Yeah,
I love it. So I love how you're talking about how like your upbringings in Philly have definitely contributed to you being a storyteller and ultimately has helped to hone your craft of being that storyteller that you are.
yeah,
I was telling you when I met you that I'm not from Philly. I'm from Delaware, but I did live in Philly for some time. I enjoyed my time there, and it's definitely immersed in culture. I love Philly culture.
right.
So I'm wondering, like, pertaining to your upbringings in Philadelphia, how did you utilize or what inspired you to utilize your experiences there in Philly and just go out there and just write about it?
Well, again, when we went to the University of Pittsburgh, they asked us to write about our neighborhoods, our
Okay.
hobbies. And when I did that, and I was using all the Philadelphia lingo, chumpies, joints, dips, cuz, and they was like, yo, man, he's using, and they had their own slang in Pittsburgh. Harrisburg had their slang. New Yorkers had their slang. DC,
Yeah,
but all black people got their own slang. So hearing
exactly.
me use the slang as a part of my story inspired the other students in my class. They were all freshmen when we met each
Hmm.
other in Pittsburgh. And so people started copying what I was doing. And then
Hmm.
the counselors were like, can you write like a student diary, which typically girls write diaries. But in my diaries, I was writing about the parties at Pittsburgh and going to the football games and the classes, and people were reading that. Then I got an A in English. And so for me, writing about Philadelphia started because the Pittsburgh's, teachers asked us to do that. And then once I did that, I said, hell, we got a lot of stuff we did in Philadelphia that I can write about that nobody really writes about contemporary teenagers. And when you talk about black writing at that
That
time,
part.
we were still writing about slavery. We were not writing about contemporary black people. And so that was
Mm,
the hip hop era. I was in the 80s, the original 70s and 80s, the original funk and hip hop era. So I was like, wow, we got block parties, house parties, football, basketball, fighting, swimming. You know what I mean? Philly's a big city. So I said, I got a lot of stories to write about. And so I went ahead and put it together. And Flyy Girl, was like the culmination of that because,
yes.
that song was hot. And I was like 15, 16 when that Flyy Girl song came out from the Boogie Boys, the Brooklyn crew. And it was like, that was it. Like the girls was trying to, and we was chasing after the Flyy Girls. So that was just like the perfect timing to write about 84, 85, 86, those prime years in the middle of the 80s. And so, yeah, I just like, let me write a whole book about it, writing about the type of girls that we were chasing after. And that was smart that I didn't write it from a guy's perspective because guys don't read like that. So it wouldn't have blown up the way
Mm,
Flyy Girl did, writing it from the girl's perspective, the people I was chasing, instead of writing it from my perspective. And that was a stroke of genius because if I had to write it from a man's perspective and guys don't read, like it wouldn't have blew up like that. So I was
mhm.
lucky to write it from the girl's perspective.
I'm loving how you basically took your experience and you put that in literary form. You literally are a literary giant. Like the way that you influence, especially like black culture and black writers, black authors in general. You can definitely tell when an author has read your books and they've been inspired by your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when thinking about even Flyy Girl, first of all, congratulations on 30 years. Like
Yeah.
that's an amazing accomplishment. To stay relevant over 30 years. Like I'm wondering how that even feels for you today.
Well, without the movie, you know what I mean? It's like it wears off, because if I get the movie and if I get to cast what's the daggone name? Yara Shahidi will be my
Mhm.
choice.
Okay.
If I get to cast Holly Berry as her mom, you know what I mean? And if I get to cast what's the girl name? Zendaya as Mercedes. Now she would be a stretch as Mercedes because Mercedes wasn't light skinned like that, but I like Zendaya and I like her height and I like her politics. And those are 3 stars. They're the
Yeah.
only 3 stars I need. Everybody else got to fit the part and can be from Philadelphia. So I would have a
Mhm.
whole lot of Philadelphians. We would shoot it in Philadelphia. And that's another problem that you have with mainstream, filmmaking right now. They want to shoot it in other places. No part of
Mhm.
Atlanta looks like Philadelphia. So I wouldn't want to do that. And then when they do that and
Right.
try to make one part look like it, then you stuck doing a movie on one block. And let me tell you something. I'm an 80s teenager. We never stayed on one block, dude. We traveling around. We walking we catching buses. So to
Right.
have any 80s and then they don't want to do the 80s. I'm like, are you crazy? That's when we were the Flyers. Are you out your mind? You got to do the 80s. Kids don't even use the word fly now. So I'm like, no. So that's the things that make it hard to do the film. So, people, it's 30 years anniversary. I'm gonna do a tour, a college
Yeah.
tour this year, but I still think about the
Dope.
film, trying to get the film
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
Well, I don't need to be a main character, but if you could just put me in as an extra, I'd work with that
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah,
Just let me know.
yeah. All the parties, we got plenty of people. We got to put you in the old school gear, the old
I
school
got
hair.
you.
Yeah, the 80s. Yep.
I got you. I got you. So you were writing about Tracy, who was the protagonist in this whole novel, Tracy Ellis, and her coming of age story in Philadelphia. And so I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, do you feel as though you contributed to Black women, African American women in fiction? Because, like you said, there weren't many stories that were talking about this.
Well, if you talking about young fiction, you can say
Mm,
that, but Black
yeah,
women were already. Terry McMillan was already writing. Rosamund McMillan,
for sure,
what's that?
for
Toni
sure.
Morrison, Alice Walker. Women were dominating the field.
Yeah,
So I can't say that at all. You know what I mean? I can say for the younger women,
for
yeah,
the
but not,
teenagers. Okay.
yeah, not Black sisters. Period. They were the ones dominating. So when I came in, it was like 10 female writers and one Black male writer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can't say that, but for the young people, I inspired the younger female writers to write, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what was that like at that time? Because like you said, like the Toni Morris, like they were writing,
Yeah,
but in terms of like the younger stories, right? So like the teenage stories, like
right.
what that really pushed the needle in that era. And
Well,
so yeah.
at first, they didn't really look at it the same way they looked at hip hop. It was like this new thing, this young thing, it's going to fade away. It's not going,
Mm,
so when I first put Flyy Girl out, it was like the old heads like, what is this? What the hell is this? He got the language all over here. He got all, what the heck are you doing? Like, what is this? It's not going to fly. It's not going to work. And then the young kids started reading and was loving it. And they were like, why are you reading that Flyy Girl, that Omar Tyree with the, and they were like, because it's young, it's us, it's slang, it's hip. And then after a while, when it kept selling and kept doing what it do, then the older
yeah.
folks was like, well, he done found something now. You know what I mean? So after a while, they had to accept. And then I had other books coming out. One like I just wrote Flyy Girl. I wrote A Do Right Man, A Single Mom, and
Mm-hmm.
Sweet St. Louis, and For the Love of Money, and Leslie, and Just Say. And I kept coming. And then it was like, well, this dude ain't a fluke. He know what he's doing. He keep putting the stuff out. So we got to go ahead and accept what it is. And now I'm one of the oldest in the game. I was the youngest in the game. Now I'm an old head. So I just did an event in Baton Rouge with Terry McMillan. And I'm talking to her people, trying to get her to do a tour with me where we both talk about, the rise of Black literature in the 90s. But,
Mm-hmm.
Terry is on that another level. So I got to see if her people allows a tour for us together. But if she don't want to do it together, then I'm going to do my own tour this fall at all the HBCUs and colleges again with the 30th anniversary of Flyy Girl. And then I got a poetry book for the love of Black women that is already on ebook, but I'm going to put it out in print. And so I'm just going to tour myself. I'm putting that together now. Then I got a new book coming out next year called Control that deals with the mental health issues that everybody talks about now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, talk to us about Control. So I know you sent me some of your information pertaining to that book.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that, and tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the lack of control that I have right now in trying to get films done is driving me crazy. So as much as social media kind of teases people that they can do everything by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
it's really fool's gold, because now people are using social media and these numbers, and you got some people buying numbers. You got people getting high social media numbers for nonsense. So now social media is taking over, and people think they can do everything by themselves, thinking they can control everything. You can't. You really don't. And so
Yeah.
that's just that whole idea of losing control, not being in control, wanting more control. I said, man, that's a fabulous idea that I want to write about. And I think for the most part, I was just reading about depression yesterday, and it
Mm-hmm.
affects women a lot more than it affects men, because women even feel less control than men do. You know what I mean? Just your body cycle and whatnot, stuff that we don't have to deal with at all. Women have to deal with it. Every day it's like, I can't control this. I can't control. And then dating men that, you know what I mean, want to take you in one direction. You want to go somewhere else. It's just, for women, it's really, so I said, put that woman at the center of it, and then have men too. So I got a psychiatrist that's dealing with people that got control issues that they're spazzing out with. And so I said, man, this is a great psychological thriller to deal with how crazy we can get when that control avoids us, or when we got too much control, it can become crazy. So I'm writing from all those perspectives, 7 different characters in that Joker from a psychological edge,
Wow.
and it's a thriller. Another great film I did, and I got the perfect psychiatrist would be a woman that sounds like it all the time. Gabrielle Union sounds like a damn doctor. When she speaks, everything she says is like analytical, metaphorical. So she sounds like a doctor when she
Yeah,
speaks.
yeah, yeah.
So I said it'd be perfect to have her in this movie. And then I had some other characters that I was like, they would be perfect too. So when I was writing it, I was thinking about certain people that I envisioned being in those roles as a film. So I'm writing books again to keep my name out there, but I'm thinking film every single time I write a story now.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like your passion, of course, isn't just writing, but also like in the film industry. Have you done any films yet, or is that something? I think you said you're breaking into it.
Yeah, I did 2 films, independent
Okay.
ones, $25,000 each. I got a film called Monologues, which is 14 of us just doing monologues from different topics. That's on
Dope.
Amazon Prime right now. You can order Monologues from Omar Tyree. That was just a
Nice.
$25,000 film, utilizing the camera in soundtracks and in voiceovers. And then I did a film back in 2006 called The Lure of Young Women, where a filmmaker producer was looking for a young muse, a hot young woman that he can create as a star. So he was interviewing girls and getting in trouble with them. You know what I mean? So the whole
Mhm.
Me Too movement, he got power, he got money, and he's getting in trouble with these hot young, aspiring, actresses and stuff. So we shot that in 2006, and I'm holding that back because I still like it. We want to re-edit it. And once I get in the film game, I know I can put that out with total control. So yeah, we want to put that back out. So we sitting on The Lure of Young Women that we did in 2006, and I starred in that one as the dude looking for the young muses, because acting is easy to me. You know what I mean? I write it. So we did improv with that. Like, okay, here's the scene, let's do it, because I didn't want people having to study lines and forgetting it and all that. I wasn't paying people, it was cheap. And so, but we shot it well, and we want to re-edit it, make it sharper. So I did 2 films, but both of them were $25,000 films. They weren't, something I want to push hard. But The Lure of Young Women, we're gonna put that back out once I get some other stuff popping.
Nice, nice. I can't wait to hear about that. Now I have to look up Monologue. You said it's on
Yeah,
Amazon Prime.
Monologues, Amazon Prime.
Monologues.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, I'm gonna definitely get into that. Yeah, so it's definitely just an honor to kind of like talk to somebody who's been in the writing game for such a long time. And I can imagine that there are probably listeners, like other Black authors and Black writers, who are listening and they like advice. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, if there's anything that you would tell them, like how would you tell them to kind of tap into what inspires them to write?
Well, I always tell them, first off, 2 things. The writer's right. So you get a lot of people, I always wanted to write. I've been thinking about writing. I always was stop thinking about it, wanting to
Right.
write. Right. If you want to play basketball, you don't talk about playing basketball. You get a ball and you go on the court and you shoot. You know what
Right.
I mean? So, when I hear people say, I always wanted to write, well, what's stopping you from writing? Just, you got a cell phone, you got a computer, you got paper and a pen. Just start writing whatever you thinking about, whatever you want to write about, and then you improve it. You keep getting better at it. It's called revision, where,
Mhm.
you write what you write, then you improve it, you typing up the spelling, you add details to it. And so that's a part of the process. But that's the first thing I tell is, write is right. Stop waiting around, thinking about it, talking about it. And then the other thing is to finish what you start. And we get other people that start stuff and they don't finish it. Yeah, I started writing
Well,
this
I feel
book.
like you're talking to me right now, but go ahead.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. I started writing this book and I'm on page 32 and I don't know what to do and where to go. How do I finish? And I'm like, well, what were you trying to write? You know what I mean? Like, did you know the end of your story? And so when I'm writing, I always have a beginning and an ending, and then you figure out the middle. You know what I mean? But I know where I'm going. So it's no time. When I came up with the idea for Control, as soon as I came up with the idea, what's my ending? Always. I always do that
Mhm.
because you got to finish it. So you can't be writing. You don't know where. Well, I'm just gonna wing it and see where. No, you're gonna be winging it forever. You got to figure out what is my ending, what is my beginning, and then you figure out how many different things do I want to happen before I reach this ending that I want you to learn from. So that's part of the process. But us writers that write all the time, we know that you gotta have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And the middle was that transition point of, you know what I mean, when
Right.
something big happened, okay, now we're going to transition to this. And so that middle, sometimes they call it a climax, it may be closer to the ending. You know what I mean? So it's not really the middle, it's
Mhm.
closer to the ending. Like a stage play is, three parts, or a screenplay is three acts. So, that middle or climax is closer to the resolution, which is closer to the end. And so if once you know that, then you know how to finish stuff. And so I tell people all the time, finish what you start. So you might have to start smaller stuff. You can't do a whole novel. Do a poem, do a short story where you know you can finish something shorter, and then you get the confidence and being how to, or learning how to finish smaller stuff. Then you can get the bigger stuff. So please don't start with the novel if you can't finish a short story.
I think that's great advice, and I honestly feel like you're coming for me right now because I've started stuff and I haven't finished it. Um,
Yeah,
but I'm definitely trying to get better at that. So you said start at the beginning and then do the ending. I haven't done
yeah,
that method yet. Maybe that will
that's
help
it.
me.
That's it. So when you're right, whatever you didn't finish, what's your ending? Well, that's why you can't finish. You don't know where you're going. I mean, that's like really like if you going to the mall, you know you're going to the mall. If you just start walking in your neighborhood, you don't know where you're going. It's like, well, where you walking to? I don't
Right.
know. Well, where you going? I don't know. Well, when you going to get there? I don't. You don't know anything because you don't know where the destination is. So you have to establish the destination all the time. Well, I don't know where I'm going. Well, you got to figure that out. If you want to become a storyteller, you got to figure out what your ending is. Period.
Hmm. Storytellers have to know the ending. Okay. I'm gonna write that down because I promise you, like, there are so many works that I've started that I have not finished yet, but it's on my goal, my to-do list to do. So I'm gonna definitely take your advice.
Yeah.
Do you do any like classes or courses for young writers or like what?
I had a Howard friend, my dude Walter Pearson. He talked to me like last week, and he said you need to do a master course. They got these master courses now, but a lot of them folks they have promotion. You know what I mean
Mhm.
for the master. I don't have promotion yet, and so a lot of times when I try to do things without promotion and marketing and the proper vehicles, they fall flat because I don't have all those followers and whatnot on Instagram and
Mhm.
YouTube and all the people that do crazy stuff have all them. I'm a very sane person. You know what I mean? Down to earth person. So you don't get all that crazy attention that these folks are getting. And so, yeah, I would love to do that, but you have to have a way of promoting it so everyone gets it. And so you
Mhm.
don't have three people in the course and you giving your all for three people. I'm still going to do that if that's the case. But it's like, really, man, I went through all this for three people instead of 30, instead of 300. And so I got to figure out how to attract people and market when you want to do something like, because I know all the skills, but then that's a skill of marketing and getting people
Yeah.
to come in. So you're going to need a person that understands how to market, has an audience, and then I say, hey, let's do a deal. You market to the audience, and I'll give you a piece of the pie. So I got to figure that out. If you want to do that, you got the audience, we'll do that. But that's the deal that I have now. If you can't get the audience, even if you're doing great stuff, nobody hears it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's the problem I have now in social media world where the people that do the sensational nonsense got all the followers and the same people don't.
You I feel like you have a social media following
I
though. Like
do, but it's small. I got 10,000 people. And I had most of that
that's enough.
10,000. You think it's enough, but here's the deal. They say only 10% is going to follow through on what you market. So I already
Mhm.
got 10,000. That goes down to 1,000. But you're assuming that when I tweet or text something or put something on Instagram, that all 10,000, and that doesn't happen. All
Mhm.
10,000 people are not going to see it. So let's say 2,000 people see it, and I'm only getting 10%. Now I'm down to 200. And then that 200 going, oh, I forgot. So no, man, you got to have a high number when you
Yeah.
marketing. And then you know you're going to get a 10% and then 5% and then 3%. And so you got to start with a huge number, not 10,000. So I got to work on trying to figure out how can I get to 20,000 and then 40,000 and then 80,000? How can I double the
Right.
numbers? I got to work on that.
Well, even outside of the social media piece, because you're such like a literary giant, I feel as though there are people out there who are interested in stuff that you have to say.
Okay.
So, like, do you have a maybe an email list? Like, is there a way that you just take people's contacts so that you can stay in communication with them when you are selling something or when you do have a new book drop or a master class?
Well, they can do that with the social media. My Instagram is only one, the number one, Omar Tyree. I'm on Facebook at Omar Tyree. I'm on Twitter at Omar Tyree. I got LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok at Omar Tyree. All they got to do is follow me on my social media, because that's the new thing now. You know, the email list I used to have in the
Yeah.
90s and the early 2000s, I used that back then. Now the email list is too tedious. You know, if those guys have your links to your social media, and you always pushing what you're doing, which of course I'm going to do on my social media, then
Mhm.
they know what you're doing. So all they have to do is follow my social media. But here's what happens. These kids want to follow people that's doing stuff that's closer to them. So if they're not real readers and stuff, then it's like, why am I following this Omar Tyree guy if I'm not really in the books and stuff? Because he's not doing anything crazy. He's real sane. So I'm not going to follow sane people. I want to follow crazy people. So they're not going. So I got to figure out a way, you know, to become cool enough for them, because I'm not going to be crazy. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I got stuff to do, and I got a mind that got to stay logical with what I'm doing. So I got to figure out how to get them to follow. But yeah, I don't need to do email lists. If you know my name and you know how to spell OmarTyree, you look it up on your social media and follow me, and then just tap in every week or whatever, and you'll
Yeah.
find out what I'm doing. It's that easy.
But the issue with social media though is, and I run into the same thing, right? The issue with social media is that, like you said, only a couple, like a small percentage of the people who actually follow you are going to see your stuff, like the people who
Yeah.
engage with you. And so, like, when you do have people who are highly engaged with your content, then that's when I pull people from my social media page to my email list. And that way,
Okay.
anytime I send something out, anytime I got something that drops, apparel, masterclass, whatever, my email list is going to get it first, because I know those are my, like, top supporters or what have you. But we
Okay.
could talk about
Okay.
that online. I feel like I can help you with, like, figuring all of that out, because the people need your knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that would be great, man. That's why I
Yeah.
put it on you, because you right now are in a platform where you're doing a lot of interviews, and so you're gonna have a lot of people checking in. So anybody that has a platform can be a person that can help in the marketing. And I got a lot of stuff I got to do. So you always looking for
Yeah.
allies, and you're right there in Delaware, and I lived in Delaware. Both my sons were born at Christiana Hospital, so the
Yeah.
Delaware thing. I was in Newcastle, right below Wilmington. So I was heading up and down. Then I went down to Dover to check out the basketball games. They had these basketball games in high school. I used to go down there all the way down to Dover. And then, of course,
At
you
Dover
got
High.
Dell State. Yeah, Dover, Delaware, all the way down
Hmm.
there. You know what I mean? So, and then the what's that? Dell State is down that way
Yep.
too. And then they got
Yep.
the racetrack down there. So I've been all over Delaware, man. Right next to Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah. That's my
there's another sister out of Delaware who's huge in media. She works with the BT.com and all that. Her name is Mustafa Muhammad. What's her name? One
Jamila.
name? Jamila
Jamila. Yeah,
Muhammad.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she
We were
came
we
out
went
of
to
Dell
Dell State
State.
together.
Yeah, you went to Dell State too?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
Oh
Jamila. We
man.
went to Dell State together.
Yeah, so I've been in touch with Jamila, and I got a film called Broken Sexy that I wanted to, plug her into as one of the stars. So that's another film that is an excellent film, because, sometimes people don't have the money, but they still trying to be sexy and act like they fly and whatnot. You know what I mean? And when you go on a date and the date start ordering all kind of stuff, that you like, whoa, you ordering steak and lobster and shrimp?
Yeah.
And you start getting nervous and start feeling it. So that's a great, funny film that deals with the economics of dating. You know what I mean? Sometimes
For
women got
sure.
more money. They got more money than you, but they still want you to spend your money. It's a lot of funny stuff. So that's a funny joint, but it's easy. It's a romantic joint, but it's a film thing. It's not the streaming thing. And so now
Okay.
I got a battle of streaming versus going to the movies. And the way I put it for black people, nobody go to the movies. I always put it to women. If I'm dating you and I call you up and say, can I come over your house, or do you want to go out to the movies? If you just dating a dude, you ain't inviting him over to you going out to the movies. You want to get dressed up. So when I hear people
Right.
keep saying, oh, nobody wants to go to, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, dude. Like, the movies is still an outing, at the whole popcorn thing, the waiting in line, that's still an event.
Yeah.
So when we start getting to the point where, and again, I started going to the movie when I love the movies. So I'm like, no. So now I'm looking at films that are bigger and higher and lock
Hmm.
in to a movie crowd. And that one that I wanted to cast Jamila Mustafa in, you know, Broken Sexy, straight movie. Because if you go on a date with a dude and somebody paid for the movie tickets, somebody paid for the popcorn, and then you got to figure out if y'all going to have a sleepover after that, or you going to set all this stuff that's going on, and then you watching a movie where that stuff is right, and y'all on a date, it's not going to feel the same if you at the house, and you know what I mean? It's not the same feeling. And so that was a movie where I know if it's date movie, so I'm gonna have date people, they gonna laugh real hard with the stuff they watching, and like, damn, I'm on a date right now, and I'm thinking the same stuff that Omar got in this movie. And that's when you have superior writing. When you know that I'm gonna put this in there because I know this is what people are thinking, versus nonsense that you got a lot of silly, stupid nonsense that's coming out that's making money because that's what they're coming up with and that's what they're getting the finances to do. But my stuff is on another level. And so yeah, Broken Sexy is theatrical, and I'm not, and that's the argument that I have with finances. No, nobody, we just want to stream it. I'm like, yo, dude, do you understand that streamers are getting a dime of, you know what I mean? Like when you take it to the movie, you get 50%. You get 50% out the gate. And so I'm like, man, streamers are getting pennies, and the streaming companies are making all the money. Netflix is making the money. Hulu was making the money. They giving you a percentage of it. You bringing the audience. So I'm like, that's crazy, man. You know, but they don't get it. They just trying to make a fast dollar. But I'm looking at the bigger picture of Black people still being able to go out, enjoy themselves at the theater, see themselves, be proud of themselves, learn about themselves. And so I'm fighting that battle right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't wait to hear about that movie to watch it because I feel like a lot
Broken
of people can
Sexy.
relate to it.
Oh, I already know. I already
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
When I wrote it, I was laughing out loud because, you know, you've been on dates. You know what I mean? Like, you understand how it goes. You start ordering stuff, and guys like, you know, in fact, Kevin Hart, that was his favorite part when he had that whole the laugh at my pain, when he kept talking about, well, my account is set up where my money ain't going to pass. So every time he did that, you know, like he hanging out with people that got more money than him. And he like, hey, we can't hang with them because they're going to spend more. I can't. The way my money is set up, that was funny as hell to me as a hustler because you always try to figure out what money you're going to spend. And sometimes you can get with the wrong person and feel like you have to spend your money up. And that happens to a lot of dudes that's out there trying to play big dog. You know what I mean? Like you spending money. Like
Right.
you know you got to pay your rent, but you spent that extra money on this girl trying to impress her. You know? So that's a really funny film that's right up. Everybody can relate to it. If you old enough to date, you understand that dates cost money, you gonna laugh. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff that it's an out movie. It ain't no inside movie. It's a go to the theater movie. And that's the kind of movies I want to focus on. Control and everything else is a go to the movie, not the streaming stuff.
I think, like I said, I think that would be a great concept. I was literally just having that conversation with my sister yesterday because we had went I live in DC, so like Navy Yard is in walking distance with all the restaurants and stuff. So we went to a restaurant and I had to pay for my own food. I'm not used to that. Going to a restaurant and
wow. She said she's not used to that. You hear that, guys? She said she not. I gotta always pay for my own food. You see how it's different, man?
I'm not used to
That's
that.
what's crazy. And so I
But
got
it was expensive. It
I
was
got a
expensive.
lawyer. I got a lawyer in Broken Sexy who makes more money than the dude she's dating, but he got to spend his money. You know what I mean? And that's like, and so he's sitting there like, aren't you a lawyer? And he's like, and she's like, yeah, I'm a lawyer. He said, well, why don't you pay? Oh, well, I left my credit card in my car. And he's like, well, why you leave your credit card in the car? You know, so it's funny as hell, man. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's great. But yeah, she don't
Dating
even
is
pay for. She
expensive.
haven't even done that. Oh
Right.
wow, yeah. Especially if you go to them steakhouses and the steak
Mhm.
is like $60, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to eat some of her steak if she don't eat it. let's cut the steak in half because you ain't gonna eat it all. You ain't gotta take it. Why you
Not
going? And
good
then
in
if
half.
you do that, you just ruined. The girl's gonna be like, because she can't wait to talk about you. Then like, do you understand? He cut the steak in half. That's true. I would never go. So you know you can't do that. But that would be funny in a movie. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna cut that in
Right.
half. We're gonna. You know, because he ain't got the budget for that. But you already know as a woman, like, oh, he's in trouble. Like, I'm not
Right.
dating that dude again. So, yeah, it's just funny stuff, man. But that's the kind of films, every film, I got a film called Kensington which is based on Philadelphia's drug
Mhm.
territory, and it's horrible in Fenderson. And so
Mhm.
I write stuff that's on point. But again, you can't shoot Kensington in some other place. That place is like ready for film. All you gotta do is turn the cameras on, and it's
I'm
crazy.
familiar with Kensington. I'm
Oh
very
my
familiar
God.
with.
And then it has that overhead train, you know what I mean? That really only 3 cities have that overhead train: Philly,
Mhm.
Chicago, and New York. So you know what I mean? You can't even duplicate that overhead train thing that immediately looks like the 70s when you're under it. You know what I mean? Immediately looks like the 70s because
Right.
it's like that throwback era when they had them big crane screens and stuff shooting the 70s movies. Those are my favorite movies of 70s because you knew you were in location and they were shooting on location. Now you don't know where the hell you are with the way they do sets and stuff. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you. So we were talking about Dover, the author of True to the Game.
yeah. Terry
Her.
Woods.
Yes, Terry Woods. Do you know her?
Yeah, yeah. She
Oh,
was
okay. Yeah.
when she first started. She was an assistant working for a law firm, and she sent me
Yeah.
some
Yeah. Yeah.
pictures when inspired. So yeah, a whole lot of the people that started, man, Vicky Stringer,
Yeah.
Quan, all them guys, man, was reaching out to me when I was like way out there, man. So they always reaching out. You know what I
I
mean?
love that.
All the books that came out, they got in touch
Yeah.
with me some way. And then Sister Soldier was already writing at the same time I was writing. She wasn't writing novels yet, but Sister Soldier has an ego, you know what I mean? So whenever I talk to Sister Soldier, she like, I was already doing this and that. I'm like, all right, because we like, I think she might even be older than me. I think she might be 1 year older than me. You know what I mean? But I was writing novels before she came out with her first novel.
Yeah.
Coldest Winter Ever came out in '99.
Mhm.
I already had like 5 and 6 books out by then. You know what I mean? So, a lot of people that read late, yeah, I was way before everybody. You know what I mean? And Sister Soldier had a book called No Disrespect, which was nonfiction that came out in '95. But my first 3 books came out in '92, '93, '94. So I was already there. And then her fiction didn't come out until '99. So a lot of people don't know the history of that. But yeah, I was way out front. And all the young folks that came through on
Yeah.
that first wave, that was the first wave. Now we like on the third wave. Some of the third wave people don't even know me. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're so separated from the beginning. But all the beginning people know me.
Yeah. I feel like when I think of my childhood, teenage years, the books like, True to the Game, Coldest Winter Ever, Fly Girl are truly staples in that era, especially in
Yeah,
Black households. So
yeah.
we definitely appreciate you and your work. Can you tell us a little bit about how we can support you, some things you got coming up? Yeah, all of that.
Well, the first thing is to follow me because I need more
Period.
followers. They judging. I mean, it's crazy what they're judging followers on now. Like, you know what I mean? They looking
Mhm.
at your followers, companies looking at your followers saying, well, if we support you, if we give you a sponsorship, if we find, you know what I mean? Now I'm like, this is crazy. And so those numbers are getting
Yeah.
highly, have been important, but I got to keep pushing. My Instagram is only one, the number one, Omar Tyree. You'll see Hot Lava Entertainment. That's my company all over everything with the red and black. My Instagram, that's the Twitter is just Omar Tyree. Facebook, Omar Tyree. TikTok, Omar Tyree. YouTube, Omar Tyree. Or Hot Lava Entertainment, which is my other thing that I'm pushing because I'm going to do all my films and stuff under Hot Lava. I do music too. So right now I'm looking for, a couple of music stars. I want to do a soundtrack song for Control. So I'm looking for a young female rapper and a young female soul artist. So I'm going to do that too. And I've been putting out music for years, but I'm not on the Puffy level, of course, as a producer. But I'm trying to get there with productions that would fit into the films and stuff, the whole soundtrack thing. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on with Hot Lava. So you'll always see that red and black Hot Lava Entertainment around what I'm doing. But yeah, just following my
Okay.
Instagram and my Twitter and, LinkedIn, all the stuff, just following. You know what I mean? That's just number one because you need those numbers. And I got to figure out a way of breaking 10,000 because I'm still at 9,100 or something like that. So it's crazy when you're saying nobody wants to follow you.
Right. Well, we're gonna talk offline about that. I got
Yeah.
some things you can
Okay.
do.
Cool.
Yeah, but I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so much for stopping through the podcast. We definitely gotta do this again.
Cool. Well, when I get those movies popping and the music stuff, yeah, that's going to be more fodder for the social media crowd and all
For
of that.
sure.
Yeah, but
For
I'm
sure.
always
Yeah.
busy working. We busy. I'm
Awesome.
going back up to Philly this week. So I got grandmother have a big old event on
Nice.
Sunday. So I'm heading back up tomorrow. In fact, I'm gonna be riding past Delaware to get back up to Philly, riding past DC to get back up to Baltimore from that same track. And now it's easy now. I've been doing it so much, it's like, it's a breeze. 9 hour
Mhm.
ride, but it's a breeze for me because I've been doing it so much.
I don't know if I'll ever get used to a 9-hour drive.
Yeah. Well, hustlers hustle. That's what we do.
I drive probably every weekend from DC to Delaware. It's about 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours
Ah,
without traffic.
that's a baby
I
ride. I
don't
used to
like
do that from
driving.
college.
I
Oh
don't
yeah, you
like
don't like
driving.
driving. I
I don't
love
like
driving. I love driving. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we're gonna connect. Definitely
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know you went to school with Dagmar Jamila
Jamila.
Mustafa. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. That's my
Yeah,
homegirl.
she
And Terry
she wanted
Woods
she
is
wanted she wanted to be the new school Oprah. You know what I mean? But that's hard.
yeah,
That's real hard. So I feel
yeah.
for her with that. That's hard to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she's doing it. I love Jamila. I know she's doing a lot of great work.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So
All right, so
also
let's connect and see how you can help me
perfect.
with the marketing. Yeah,
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
thanks.
All right.